Bonjour, everyone. Hi, this is Neshi Lokotz. Welcome to Star Nations Organization's main fan page, right here at Facebook, and to the daily live stream, where we have a spiritual conversation around the divination cards that were drawn in the morning. And so, welcome. Today is Friday, January 11th, and it's a good day here in Tomah, Wisconsin. Why? Because it's the day after publishing. It's the day after publishing our Star Nations magazine. We published yesterday on the 10th, the January issue, and the following day always kind of, for me, feels like this big sense of relief, right? That we got this last issue out, and but it also is a day that all of the things that I've kind of moved over a little bit because of publishing, now I have to kind of pick up and take a look at, and do those little things about publishing that most people don't even know about, like people having problems with their subscription, their digital subscription, and so helping them with that and those kinds of things. So it's good to have you guys here. Before we get rolling, I want to like and share the show. I've got my phone. And I'm going to do that because what happens is I start talking, and I forget. So we're going to do it right away and see if I can find here we are, the broadcast. I'm going to like it, and I'm going to share it over to my news feed. Except a post just came in, and now it's covering up. There it is. All right. To my news feed. I just want to let my friends know that I am live streaming and asking them to join. There we go. I'm going to post that. That doesn't take long at all. All right. And I've got my phone right next to me just in case. Just in case Be Live decides they're going to not be very cooperative today. It was very interesting. Hey, Violet. Violet's here. Good to have you here, Violet. And thank you for sharing. I appreciate that. Oh, Amy Daniels. I thought I hit the wrong one. There it is. Thank you, Violet. Amy popped in just as I clicked. Hey, Amy, good to have you in the house. How's your vacation going? You must be coming up on the last few days of it, I would think, huh? Yeah. Okay. So today, it's a very interesting energy here today. It's not that quite that busy because when we're publishing, I've got at least 3 things going on simultaneously, at least 3, and so today it doesn't have that spinning plate kind of feeling to it. You know how those those old shows that had the person spin the circus thing, they would spin the plates, right? And they'd have to go around. Yeah. That's what yesterday felt like. Today, not so much like that at all. It's a little bit slower paced and returning a lot of telephone calls. I've been on the phone a lot today. And so it's just getting caught up. It's good stuff though. Amy's saying, excellent vacay, going back Monday. Yeah. That first day back, and it always feels, for me anyway, whenever I've had that much time off, which has been a long time since then. But when you go back, it's almost like you walk into a different world. It's like, what? And you got to try to get your bearings again. Amy, just make sure you're grounded on Monday before you head off to work, and you'll be good. You'll be just good. And Julie Shumway Hill is here. Good to see you, Julie. Welcome. It's always good to see you guys in the chat. I was just sharing that the energy here is quite different today compared to yesterday. Much slower. Much slower, and just spending a lot of time, not so much on the computer, although I've done that too, but not nearly as much in the last week. A lot of time on the phone today. Yeah. Returning calls, people are just really patient when I tell them that I'm in the midst of getting ready to publish, and we've got, maybe 3 or 4 days or 5 days, before we publish, so it's really busy. Can I call you back? kind of thing. And so most people are very patient with that. Hi, Andrea. Good to have you here. Oh, and Violet. Violet, I opened up the box and got the products out. They smell really, really good. Violet, if you don't mind me sharing, Violet contacted me and asked me if I would test out her products. And we're working on trying to do a good energy exchange around all of that. And so this weekend, my plan, my intentions is to use the sugar scrub and the body butter. Yeah, those two things for sure. Because I also have to begin or continue, I should say, because I've begun already. Continue reading Carl Franklin's book. And so this weekend is dedicated to part of those two things, right? Part of the day. And so, yeah, it's good stuff. I get to do a little self-care, a little pampering and sitting down with a good cup of tea or coffee and delving into Carl's book. I'm going to be interviewing Carl at the end of January and the last Thursday in January. And so I want to read his book and take some good notes so that we can have a really good discussion, really good chat. All right, so we have a card, this first card that came today. And this one, the Air Guardian. Now she has been here before. Air Guardian. Yeah. And the clouds in the background. Notice she's got dark wings, black wings and black hair, but a gold crown, goldish crown. Yeah. I was just looking in the background. Energy swirls. I was looking to see if there was any sacred geometry on her or in the background, and I don't see any. Here we go. Yeah, and I think the last time we had this card, somebody was saying she reminded them of like an East Indian from like India, right? Yeah. And it says on there, shift your perception. Shift your perception. So the air guardian on the medicine wheel, the element of air is in the east. And it's all about mental thoughts, the color yellow. It's a very mental aspect to it. It's our mental body in the east. And in the medicine wheel that I live by, we walk our earth walk from the east to the west, from our mental mind to our heart, to our emotions. And our life experiences and our life lessons are all along that path, going from the east to the west. Some call it the black road, some call it the blue road. And in Just, I call it the black and blue road because it is, some of those life lessons can really take a toll. And but that's where our wisdom is gained, is in those life lessons, in that journey. And we're going from mastering the mental mind to mastering our heart and our emotions, and taking those two and balancing them, right? Balancing them, because right in the center is the creator energy, and so we have to go right through the creator energy in order to get to the energy of the West, or the spirit of the West. Yeah. So we can look at that as a respite, right? A time to relax and kind of maybe take a deep breath and integrate everything that we've learned so far. It's a place to go to be able to take refuge, right? Yeah. Some people call it the void in the center. Mm-hmm. but it's a very quiet place compared to what's going on in the journey from the east to the west. Yeah. So let's see. Violet is saying, great, thank you again for trying my products. We do need to pamper ourselves more often. I do agree. I do agree. Yeah. And they smell really good too. Yeah. Um, yeah. Well, after I get a chance to use them, then Violet, you and I will have another chat. Okay. All right. And so when we're talking about this first card, the Air Guardian, George is with me today. I don't know if you guys heard him. Um, he he just gave me the look. You know, he was laying underneath the table and he went to go hop up on the love seat. Yeah, he's getting big. All right, so the Air Guardian. The Air Guardian is all about our mental thoughts. Our mental thoughts. Yeah, and how many people in the chat room, when you realize that the last thought that you just had is a lower vibrational thought? Because we all have them, right? And how many people in the chat stop and erase it or delete it or somehow, rewind and take it back or neutralize it, I guess is a good word. Because when we do that, that means that we're awake on our spiritual journey, on our earth walk. When we catch ourselves. And I do. It's like, oh, delete that last thought. Let's replace it with. Let's replace it. And I think it's important that we do replace it, because when we take something away from a space, it leaves a void. And we know that the universe and nature, they don't like voids. They'll fill it with whatever is most handiest, easiest to fill it with. And so to be able to be consciously aware of that and to either flip that thought around so you make it into a positive or replace it completely, right? Yeah. Andrea is saying, I try to talk back to my negative thoughts. Oh, well, that's interesting to put it that way. Give us an example, Andrea, if you can, okay? Just so that we're, on the same page with you. And so Violet says, I'm working on that. That's good. That is good. Because we have to start somewhere, right? Stephanie says, I have not found a good way to rewind the thoughts yet. Yeah. I think that when we catch ourselves, that is a step in a positive direction, right? When we catch ourselves. And being aware of, do you notice how when you have that one thought, it kind of leads to the next thought and to the next thought and to the next thought, right? It's like a chain reaction. And so it's even good to catch it when you first realize it, even if it's just an interrupter, a disruptor of that chain of thoughts. Because it depends on how much emotion we have behind those thoughts. We give those thoughts a life form, depending on how strong our emotion is around it. And it doesn't matter what kind of emotion, it's just a really strong emotion. So if you're really, really angry and you say something really spiteful or mean in that anger, it's carrying a lot of energy to the point where, in a space clearing sense, those negative thought forms almost replicates what a negative entity carries, because of the amount of emotion behind it when it was thought. Yeah. Yep. Okay, so Amy is saying, yes, all the time now when I realize it, I replace it with love. Oh, that's a good one. Just something really simple. When you catch that lower vibrational thought, stop. delete, and consciously replace it with love. That void. Yeah, that's a good one because it's simple, and yet when you have the emotion behind of love, it's very powerful. That's a good one. Thank you for sharing that, Amy. Roberta says, "Good day, friend. I say erase, erase." Yeah, mine is delete, delete, delete that last thought, and then I do the replacement. And many times it's just the same sentence, but or the same context, subject, but I'm putting it into a more positive framework, more positive words. And we're human, we're those two-leggeds, and so sometimes it takes us a while to delete that thought. I think the interesting part of it is we also have to be very careful not to suppress or repress our feelings around it, right? Because that's not good either. The expression to express those emotions in a healthy way, in as kind a way as possible. And so it's kind of like a very interesting balance, right? So you catch yourself thinking this negative thought, disrupt it with erase, delete, and then replacing it with a more positive thought. It's good, but we have to keep in mind and in our hearts of our emotions around it, and not to negate the emotions. So it's kind of like that juggling act kind of thing. We have to be aware of it, feel the emotions, but not have the negative thoughts around it. It's a very interesting concept, I think. Andrea said, like I tell myself, you're falling, or you're failing. I'm sorry, you're failing, or something like that. I take the opposite view and say, no, you're not. You're doing well and learning this and doing that, etc. Oh, good. Thank you for clarifying that, Andrea, because it's a little bit easier to imagine, to visualize that. Yeah. Yeah, a lot of times I use the word stop. Stop. I give myself an attitude adjustment. Just stop. Just stop. This isn't doing anyone any positive, any good. So just stop. And I like Amy's thing, it's like to replace it with love, even if you just say the word love. But I think it's important that we go and experience the emotions that's behind it rather than cutting them off. We're not even cutting them off at the knees, we're cutting them off a lot higher at the heart, right? We're just cutting it off. And that I don't think that that's a good thing either. I spent a good part of my younger life repressing and suppressing. Sorry about that. Somebody's trying to call me. I told you today was a bunch of telephone calls. Yeah, so we don't want to cut them off. We want to experience them. We want to pay attention to our emotions and to see, because if it's anger, then, what am I really angry about? And as an empath, asking, is this my anger? Because it could be someone else's. Is this my anger? And if it is, where did this come from? Why am I feeling this? What's really underneath it? Because generally speaking, anger is like a symptom. And what's underneath it? What's driving it? What's causing it? And so I think it's important to spend time on that, because that's where our growth is, right? When we do the delete, the erase of the negative thoughts, that is really about our awareness of how our life is unfolding and flowing. And two, there's life lessons in that too. But we have more control over our thoughts than we do about just about anything else. Yeah. I was just checking in. Is that true that we have more control over our thoughts? And it's like, yes, you can change it. You can change it. And eventually, um, as time goes by, um, as you've been doing this a lot or more often, deleting, rephrasing, replacing that negative thought, that eventually the negative thoughts are less and less and less. That's what they're saying. All right. Let me see. Boy, it's scrolling so fast here. Okay. Um, and Julie is saying, that's what I'm struggling with, that idea of suppressing my anger without stuffing it inside. Yeah, I think it's a very unique balancing act. It really is. Because in this in essence, Julie, is the um, the essence of our journey from the east and from mental thought to the west, which is our heart and emotions. And so, in many ways, that's one of our life lessons here. This is one of the reasons why we're in this school called Earth, is to be able to live our lives and to experience our emotions and our thoughts in a balanced way. That's the mastery. They're not. It's not that we're not supposed to have the emotions. We're supposed to have the emotions because it's part of our GPS system, right? Our emotional guidance system. That's the one that helps us with our intuition. And so it's really the mastery of that balance between the mental thought and the emotions, our heart. Yeah. And when we do that, we're actually living our life from our high heart. Um, yeah, I was listening to Polly Joe's, in what's it? Yeah, it was on Wednesday night. Somebody got the card where it had um, a pink heart rather than a green heart, right, for the heart chakra, and it was a little bit higher than the physical heart. And Polly Joe was saying something about notice the color of the heart. It's pink. That's the high heart color, right? And so when we're talking about this particular card, the air guardian, and it's about shifting your perception. Shifting your perception. I think it's really talking about the mastery that we're here to experience. And like anything that you master, you only get good at it by doing it. You don't get good at it by reading about it, although it's helpful. You don't get good at it by watching somebody else all the time. It's helpful, but it's not moving you further down your path, right? It's helpful, but it's not your work. Does that make sense? Yeah. And Roberta's saying, watch Robert Holden today. He was talking about what one good thing could happen if I judge myself less, and repeat it 10 times with answer each time was an amazing lesson. Well, that's good. One good thing could happen if I judge myself less. Yeah, that inner critic. Holy smokes. We certainly know how to feed that one, don't we? We're trained to do that, to feed that inner critic. Yeah. Uh, it's that one that I think Violet was talking about. When you're saying to yourself that you're failing, or how could you possibly do that? How silly or how stupid was that? Um, yeah, treating ourselves that way is so disrespectful and so downright mean. Sometimes we're our own bully, aren't we? But that we have the choice, though. We have the choice to disrupt that thought, disrupt it, to end that cycle. Um, and I think that's what Julie was talking about, struggling with the idea of suppressing my anger without stuffing it inside. Right, right. And I think it's more important that, okay, first of all, it's a good thing that you recognize that my feeling, my emotion is anger. Because, as females, and especially in a certain generation, we were not encouraged at all to show our emotions, especially if it was an extreme emotion of any kind, of any kind, especially anger, especially anger. We weren't good girls. Never did that, right? Yeah, yeah. Slamming doors. I was just thinking back to teenage years, slamming doors, stomping out, rolling your eyes. Yeah. Needless to say, none of that's verbal, is it? Right. But I think that diving deeper, what is underneath the anger? Because that's a symptom. What's underneath it? That's where the soul growth is. It's what's underneath that. Um, and sometimes we don't get to that point until after we've kind of calmed down a bit, to be able to see it. And I think that's what this is about. Is shift your perception. Shift your perception. What's made you angry? And why did it make you angry? What's underneath it? And so you're really shifting your perception when you ask that question, what's really here? What's really underneath this? What's driving it? Why would I react so strongly to that? And especially if we have the thought and we have that really strong emotion and giving it life. Yeah. There's this do no harm, right? Do no harm, including yourself, not to harm yourself. Do no harm. Sometimes it takes a little while to get there too, to do no harm. All right, we're gonna see what Kyle has to say about this. Andrea saying yes, very true, very true. So you scroll down a little bit more. Oh. Amy is saying, especially at my job, I use okay stop. Delete those fill with love. Then later I will look what happened and why and learn from that. And physically leaving the situation area for a short period to get recentered. Oh, that's a good one. Because you stop it, right? You stop the energy feeding into the thought. Just stop. And what do you say? You say, delete those and fill with love. Okay. And then you physically change your perspective. You go to a different place physically. Yeah. Some people would say you're shaking it off. Kind of like our canine relatives, right? How they when they're wet, when they shake their fur and they shake it off. Sometimes we got to do that. Yeah. Thanks for that, Amy. That's a good one. Julie says, I was told to quit being so sensitive. Oh, I know. If I had a dime for every time somebody said that to me, um, and it's like, well, now we look at that. Now we look at that and we think, all right, so this is me being human, and so now you want me to be less than human, to be sensitive. Unless you're sensitive to their plight, to their issue, then being sensitive is okay, right? Yeah. Um, Yeah, I know. There's many of us here, and looking at the people who are in the chat have heard that too, Julie. I think that you stated something that we've all have experienced is being told, quit being so sensitive. Hmm. Yeah, especially when you're the one who is takes on has taken on more responsibility, and so then you get to the point where people are expecting you to do certain things because you've always done it, and then when you start to refuse to do it, it's like, well, what's wrong with her? Oh, she's so sensitive. You know, she's too sensitive, taking it too personally. Although the Four Agreements, Don Miguel Ruiz says, don't take things personally. Because a lot of times it's not even about us. We think it is because, we're the center of our own universe. And the other person, if we're having an event with another person, another two legged, they're in their own universe too. And so they're not really, it's really all about them. It's not even really about us in their mind. It's all about them and how whatever we did to them. So I think when this makes complete sense. Shift your perception. So if we go on the other side of the room and look at the same event, what does it look like from there? From some other perspective, another perspective. And if we take a higher perspective, an eagle view of it, or a hawk view of it, um, we can see a little bit more with clarity about what's really going on. Um, yeah, I still say we have to express it, or at least acknowledge our emotions. Acknowledge that I'm scared. Acknowledge I'm really angry. Acknowledge I'm hurt. Those kinds of things. Acknowledge it. But I like the fact that we can maybe step back at some point and really take a look at it and ask for help. Ask our spiritual team to show us with clarity what was really going on with this. Why did I react so strongly with this? Those are good questions. Amy says, I miss the old fashioned rotary dial phones that one could slam down the hand and earpiece. Oh, I know. It's kind of hard to have the same effect with the cell phone, isn't it? Except you know what? There's probably an app out there that has that sound. I bet there is. Probably it's $2.99 or something. Andrea's saying, Julie, I can so relate. It took me a long time to honor my sensitivity instead of thinking of it as a fault. Spot on, Andrea. Spot on. That sensitivity, instead of thinking of it as a fault, that it's actually a gift. It's not a fault. It's not. Whenever somebody tells me that, I what comes to me is that they're not taking responsibility for their end of this, whatever this is, right? That it's easier to blame the other person than it is to take responsibility or to look at your own stuff. Because if you look at your own stuff, you might actually have to acknowledge a few things. All right. So here's what Kyle has to say about the air guardian. Shift your perception. Change the way you think, and you will change your whole reality. Change the way you think, and you will change your whole reality. Yeah. Do you ever notice that when we get obsessed with a thought, something's going on, that we when we obsess about it and it's ruminating, and we put more and more energy, more and more emotion behind it. Literally creating the situation to be bigger than it really is. Do you ever notice that? When we don't disrupt that cycle, when we don't disrupt that thought. Yeah. I gotta check something here. Whoops, went the wrong way. All right. Okay. So, where was I? Oh yeah, we're going to check out what Kyle has to say. He says the air guardian represents the angels of the air element. Traditionally, air is all about thoughts, thinking, and everything that's happening in the mind. So these angels can help you to overcome any thoughts that have come back to haunt you from the past and to see the world more clearly. They are guiding you to change the way you think about certain situations. This could be standing between you and greatness. Between you and greatness. Yeah, when we get stuck in a rut, when we get stuck in that same moment over and over and over again, and we're thinking the same thoughts about that, and feeling the same feelings about that, rather than stopping, as Amy said, stopping and disrupting it, putting putting a bookmarker of love in there, and then maybe even changing your physical place. Walk across the room, go take a walk, that sort of thing. Yeah. All right. Let's see. Oops, wrong way. Right. And so Kyle goes on to say, when this card arises, it's an opportunity to learn about your way of thinking. You're being guided to recognize that not all you see is exactly the way you see it. Sometimes the mind can play games, sometimes our perceptions can be wrong. If you're being challenged or feel that there's a lack of clarity and direction in your life, at that moment, there's a good chance the way you're thinking or what you're focusing on has a lot to do with that reality. You're being guided to open your eyes and your mind. Go beyond any limits you have set for yourself and recognize that the way you see the world is how you will experience the world. The way that you see the world is the way you will experience it. Opportunities are moving in your direction, but they will only open up for you if you are ready to do the internal work to support them. Opportunities are opening in your direction or moving in your direction, but they will only open for you if you are ready to do the internal work to support them. The internal work. Yeah. And that's where our mastery is, when we do the internal work. That's where our soul growth is. Yeah. And if we ignore it or procrastinate about it, right, we're delaying the reward. Why do we do that? We delay the reward. And I understand. Sometimes it's harder to face the situation and change our thoughts. Oh, I was just thinking that, sometimes the older we get, the more rigid our thoughts are, our beliefs are. Yeah. There's something about that, doing the work piece. Because if we want to change our lives, we have to change our perception of it. Right? So there's that card. It's the first card. Checking the time. And the second card that came is summer. Don't you wish it was summer? It's so cold here. It's summer. And on it, it says, bask in joy and light. Bask in joy and light. When I was looking at these two cards when they were drawn this morning, when they came to me this morning, and I was thinking about air, the spirit of air, the air element, is for me is in the east, right? And on the medicine wheel, summer is in the south. And so it's a natural movement to go from spring, which is in the east, to summer, which is in the south. It's a natural progression, it's a natural movement. And so it could be a natural movement that we're looking here, that if we do the inner work, we make the decision, we intend to do the inner work. It's a natural progression when we can change our thoughts, change our perspective, and we can move into joy and light. It's a natural progression. It's natural to move in that direction. But it's in the movement. It's in the movement. It's in the intending to change the thought, to change your perspective. Because when we do that, we change our worldview. Our world around us changes. And so it's a natural progression to move into joy and to light. And when that came to me this morning, I was like, you know what? My spiritual team, I thank them for that, because it makes a whole lot of sense to me, not just in my mental mind, but in my heart. The key is to do the work. And to ask for help. Ask your spiritual team for help. Yeah, your inner circle. Thing is that, they can't do the work for us, right? They can't do the work for us, but they can offer support. They can be the messengers with information, right? And then we have to discern if that information, but they certainly can support us, and they can be the messengers with information. Yeah. How many people in the chat grounded today? That did their grounding? Because when we're grounded, it's, we're calmer, right? And we're stronger, we're more stable. And so when those negative thoughts come up, we're in a position to be able to recognize that, and to make that movement, to disrupt it, to change it. Yeah. Okay. Gotta scroll down here. Julie, Violet says, me. Good, Julie. Or Violet, good. Oh, I can't get down there. Here we go. All right, Violet says me. Thank you, Violet. And Andrea is saying, light is so important right now to get through this time of year. It's so drab out. We get a lot of inversion. I try to use a lot of fluorescent lights. Yeah. If you can get the full spectrum lights, that's even more helpful. Even though it is cloudy out, the sun is still there. The sun is still there, and it's still shining. And if you can get outside even for just a little while, even though it's cloudy, you're still getting the natural sunlight. Yeah, change your perception. Roberta's saying, yep, grounded. Yay. Thank you, Roberta. Julie said, I did perfect. Yay. And Amy, yes. Stephanie said, I took a nap instead of grounding. I need to ground now. Well, you probably need both. You need to sleep too. And Andre said, I forgot to ground. Okay, that's okay. You can take a moment and ground. Right? And the more often that we do that, grounding, it takes less and less time to feel grandmother earth because we're aware of what it's like to be in her energy field, right? When we are connected to her, profoundly connected to her, because we're always connected to her. It's not like we can't be connected to her. If you're breathing and got a heartbeat, you're connected to her. It's when we ground our entire being to her, including our mental mind. Yeah. All right. Let's see what Kyle has to say about summer. Summer. It says, bask in joy and light. Rise up, open your wings and shine. Bring your projects and plans out into the light, into manifestation. Bring your plans and your intentions into the light. So if you want to change your perception, change your thoughts, intend them to be more positive, more loving, more kind, whatever your words are. The second card, summer, is here to support that. And basically telling us that if we do the work, that we will bask in joy and light. He says that summer has always been recognized as a time for joy, for going on adventures and making memories. Flowers are in full bloom, animals are enjoying the freedom of the wild summer days and nights, and people are taking holidays, basking in the sunshine and being lifted energetically by the light and the warmth. This is a perfect opportunity for you to enjoy the fruits of your labor, of the inner work that you're doing. Light has come to banish the darkness. Clarity is arriving too, allowing you to know exactly where you are and how you can move forward. Okay, so if we are taking in that we are gaining mastery between our head and our heart, right? That clarity is arriving, allowing you to know exactly where you are and how you can move forward. I like that. Angels and ancestor guides are encouraging you to enjoy the moment and not to rush forward, because this is a time for pleasure, enjoyment, and expansion. There is a great chance that you have extra energy, creativity, and inspiration at this time. Notice what is coming to you, as it is an inspiration directly from the divine. Directly from the divine. So if we do the work, if we do that inner work, changing our perspective, and I know sometimes it can be difficult, especially when you're in the middle of one of those life events, to see it with clarity, to try to get above the fray, to see it from a higher perspective, a wider frame. Sometimes I know that's hard to do. But if we're grounded and we're breathing, taking those full breaths, we're in a better position to be able to get there than if we're not. Because if we're not, a lot of times we're so shocked and thrown off balance that we're oh my gosh. All right. I just saw this image of someone when they have like a scatter rug or a throw rug pulled out from underneath them, You're losing your balance. Your arms are flailing. You're trying not to fall. Yeah, and so you're in a precarious position, right? That's what it feels like when you're ungrounded and going through a situation, a shocking situation. Yeah. Bobby says, I like the thought that ego is not real. Instead, find that space inside you that is free of judgment. Grounding does help to get there. Yes, it is. Yes, it does. And ego is just a word. It's a word. It's a descriptive word of an aspect of ourselves. Yeah, my formal education is in psychology. That was my major, my undergrad. And I've always been fascinated by human behavior. And after I graduated from college, and I took up classes in spiritual stuff, right? I remember one day I was thinking about this, and being a triple Sagittarius, I get very philosophical about things. And I was in meditation and I was asking my team about information regarding our ego and why is it so out of balance most of the time. And I remember this had everything to do with my dress, my medicine dress at the time. And basically they were telling me that was part of my experience here, to study, to see, understand how we took something that was once whole and we took it apart to examine ourselves in every possible facet, turning it inside and out, turning it around, upside down and sideways, to really take a look at it. And what they were talking about is psychology and how we took ourselves, we were whole beings and knew that we were whole, and we started to dissect ourselves. We call it the lower self or the inner child. We call it the conscious self or the adult, and we call it the higher self or the ego. No, the ego is in the center. Sorry, misspoke there. That conscious self, that adult or the ego, or the higher self and the soul, the spirit, right? So we took ourselves apart. And now many of us are pulling ourselves together, literally pulling ourselves together, and returning to the wholeness. And so when I see those psychological words, that's what it reminds me of, is that is an old concept. That's out of the old paradigm. It's an old energy that we're moving. Our movement is toward unification, toward the Christ consciousness, and into the fifth dimension, right? And so in that energy field and frequency, the fractions of ourselves don't exist. We're whole. And so, Bobby, when you say that the thought that you like the thought that the ego is not real, it's just a word, a descriptive word that was at the time useful, to give context to something that we were studying. And now we're in the time and the place where we can sense that we're doing we're pulling ourselves together. Talk about a soul retrieval. Those fractions of ourselves coming back to the whole. And I think that's part of changing our perception. Shift your perception, right? to change your mental thought about that. That as a whole being, that's why we need to experience our emotions, because that's the one piece that kept getting pushed aside. It's like, no, we have to understand the mental mind. hmm So, as a Native American, we tend to think of ourselves, or have past tense, thought of ourselves in fractions, because that's how you were defined to meet the blood quantum um, of a particular tribe or nation in order to be enrolled. And so, I'm a quarter that, and three quarters this, and or half that, and so looking and considering ourselves in those fractions, rather than considering and seeing ourselves or sensing ourselves in a wholeness, in the whole being. Yeah. And so, in many ways, we we all have different ways of perceiving our wholeness or lack of wholeness, and so we have a lot of options to be able to pull ourselves together too. Yeah. So good one, Bobby, for mentioning that. Thank you so much, because that led to the next thought, right? And we are at the top of the hour. It goes by so quickly. Um, and so let's see what's going on. We have shows for you coming up next week. We have on Tuesday Polly Jo LeBay at noon with Chakra Sessions, and then we have my weekly show in the evening at 8 p.m. Eastern, Communications from Home, and I just got an acceptance for an interview with our brand new, one of our brand new live stream show hosts and contributing writers, Maureen Mann. She is going to be on with me. And so, you guys, we get to talk about her new show and her new column. And for those who don't know Maureen, to be able to be introduced to her and get to know her a little bit. Yeah. So that's Tuesday night. Wednesday is at 4 p.m. Eastern Time is Nature Adventures with Minnie Kansman and I. And we're going to be sharing about the element of earth and hibernation and basically the energy of this time of year. And so that's at 4 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday. And on Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern is Soul Connections. And that is Polly Jo LeBay. And that's an evening of healing and divine messages. So if you like to do healing meditations every week, that's her. And also card draws. Did you know that this past Wednesday, there were 55 cards drawn on Wednesday night? 55. She's working with 2 decks of cards. Oh, which reminds me, I promised we were going to put the names of the decks that she was using in the comments, and I forgot all about that. I'm going to have to try to remember. Stephanie, I don't know if you have the names of the decks that she was using. If you could put a comment in that live stream recorded show, that would be nice. Or if you can just send it to me, I'll put it in. I'll put the comment in. So I almost forgot about that. So anyway, that's Wednesday night. And so we have a few shows for you coming up. Oh, and Thursday, almost forgot again. Thursday is Star Nations Academy closed group here at Facebook. We're doing the free mini class at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And that particular mini class is going to be taught by Polly Jo LeBay. And she is offering information about being an empath and our chakras. And so it's a primer. It's a very basic information, and it's going to be about an hour long, right? And so it's connecting to those people who may have just realized or found that they are an empath, and now what do I do? How do I do this? And just give very basic information about it. Okay. All right. You too, Bobby. You have a good weekend. And you're welcome, Andrea. And okay, no problem, Stephanie. I will contact Polly Joe and get the names and we'll figure that piece out. Okay. And with that, whatever you felt or heard today that resonated with you in the conversation, please embrace and watch and notice how the energy flows for you today, unfolds, and how the information that you resonated with is helpful. If it didn't resonate with you, don't worry about it. It's okay. Maybe tomorrow. Maybe tomorrow. And so enjoy the rest of your Friday, and we'll see you back here tomorrow, Saturday, for tomorrow's live stream and card divination information. Okay? All right. Bamamina, that's Potawatomi for until we see each other again. Love you guys.